reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello and welcome to part 2 of your big bank holiday Platinum Jubilee We Need to Talk About special, where we need to talk about royalty. Who'd have thunk? We have another majestic show lined up for you today. Keeping me company is royal historian and biographer Robert Lacey, and here's what's coming up on the show. We reflect on the Thanksgiving service, an event of dignity and decorum, before finding out what mad Brits have been doing to mark Platty Jubes around the country. And what cost of living crisis? How the festivities are giving Britain a big multi-billion-pound boost. And it's less corsets and tiaras and more barber jackets and wellies for our Madge. But make no mistake, a lot of thought goes into the royal wardrobe. We go inside the Queen's closet. And stay tuned for the best of Prince Philip. That's right, we look at the Duke's most colourful one-liners that have kept the Queen entertained throughout her 70-year reign. And as per usual, you can email us at gbnews@gbnews.uk or tweet us at gbnews. First, though, it's time for the GB News headlines.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 2:02. I'm Olivia Guthrie in the GB newsroom. The Archbishop of York has thanked the Queen for staying the course during a service at St Paul's Cathedral. Members of the royal family, including Prince Charles and Camilla, were joined by dignitaries to honour the Queen and her 70-year reign. Prince William and Kate were also there, along with Prince Harry and Meghan, who appeared with the Windsors for the first time since moving to the States. Her Majesty, though, missed the event after experiencing some discomfort yesterday and watched the service on television from Windsor Castle. The Archbishop said the Queen was missed.
Your Majesty, we are sorry that you're not here with us this morning, but we are so glad that you are still in the saddle, and we are glad that there is still more to come.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister received a mixed reception on his arrival. Boris Johnson was booed and cheered by the crowds as he approached St Paul's Cathedral with his wife Carrie. It follows a turbulent time for the Prime Minister, who's facing calls to quit after Sue Gray's report into lockdown breaches at Downing Street. Well, leaders around the world have sent their best wishes to the Queen for the special occasion. Among them is North Korea's Kim Jong-un. In a message from Pyongyang, the reclusive leader extended his congratulations to Her Majesty and the British people for her 70 years on the throne. In other news, UK intelligence shows Russia now controls more than 90% of Luhansk in eastern Ukraine. On the 100th day of the war, the Ministry of Defence is warning Moscow could have complete control of the region in the next 2 weeks. After abandoning its assault on the capital, Kyiv, Russian forces are now focusing on the east and south of the country. Officials in Luhansk say the number of weapons provided by the West are still not enough. The US president is urging Congress to ban assault weapons and expand background checks in the wake of another mass shooting. 4 people, including 2 doctors, were killed when a gunman opened fire at a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma yesterday. Last week, a teenager shot dead 19 children and 2 teachers at a school in Uvalde, Texas. And during a racially motivated attack, 10 people were killed in Buffalo in New York. President Joe Biden says enough is enough.
Guns are the #1 killer of children in the United States of America. The #1 killer. More than car accidents, more than cancer. Over the last 2 decades, more school-age children have died from guns than on-duty police officers and active-duty military combined. For God's sake, how much more carnage are we willing to accept? How many more innocent American lives must be taken before we say enough?
Back here, the Ministry of Defence has been warned it could compromise national security unless it fixes or scraps its Ajax armoured vehicle programme. A parliamentary report found it was flawed from the outset. The programme, designed to build reconnaissance vehicles for the Army, has been running for 12 years at a cost of £3.2 billion, but has so far failed to deliver a single deployable vehicle. The government has confirmed it wants to ditch what it's calling overbearing EU rules about imperial measurements. It's launched a consultation which may give traders more freedom to use pounds and ounces instead of kilos and grams when selling goods in future. The Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy says a review will restore common sense to the statute book. And the illustrator behind best-selling book The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse is selling some of his drawings. Sotheby's is auctioning 28 original Charlie Mackesy sketches. The ink and watercolour creations include 2 which didn't make the final cut for the book. The artist says it's a massive privilege to have his work shown by the auction house as part of a series of Jubilee exhibitions. This is GB News. We'll bring you more news as it happens. Now it's back to Alex.
After the pomp and circumstance of yesterday, the bright red uniforms and bearskins precariously balanced on proud heads, chin straps almost in mouths like muzzles of over 1,500 troops from different regiments, whinnying horses groomed to shine like polished silverware, and a booming flypast of 70 aircraft as the royals waved from the balcony to cheering crowds below, festooned in a sea of Union flags. Today's ceremony of Thanksgiving in St Paul's Cathedral was a display of decorum, solemnity and dignity from royals and guests alike, albeit in an almost Disney-like tapestry of robes against a backdrop of regal fanfare. Yesterday, we were reminded that our Queen is the head of our armed forces, and today, the defender of the faith. And even in her absence, we felt her there. How godlike the sense of the figure to whom the country and Commonwealth gave thanks today. A representation of something beyond human bounds, a sense of power, tradition and order. Anyone who questions what it is our royal family does in a country not bound by constitution, but protocol that echoes through the ages, it is that, the invisible glue of a nation. We can cross to Buckingham Palace and speak to GB News royal reporter Cameron Walker. Cameron, round up the morning's events for us.
Good afternoon, Alex. Yes, so today we had a service of Thanksgiving at St Paul's Cathedral to celebrate Her Majesty the Queen's 70 years of service to Great Britain. And the vast majority, if not all, of the extended royal family were there, including the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge and the Duke and Duchess of Sussex as well. We'll come on to them in a moment. But the Queen was not there. We found out yesterday that Her Majesty was not going to be attending. We understand she experienced some discomfort during the Trooping the Colour celebrations yesterday, even though she did manage to do 2 balcony appearances on the balcony of Buckingham Palace behind me. But at the service today, not the Duke of York, that's the wrong person, the clergy said Her Majesty the Queen is still in the saddle and thanked her for staying on course. Now, I think another theme, obviously the big theme was celebration of Her Majesty's reign, but another one was her relationship with the Church and her relationship with Christianity. After all, she is she is head of the Church of England, and in her accession in 1952, she swore an oath to protect the Church of Scotland. Inside the congregation, there was members of the armed forces, representatives from the Royal Navy, Royal Air Force, and British Army were there, as well as public service. That was another big theme of the congregation. There were NHS key workers, there were teachers as well. Afterwards, there was a big Guildhall reception just down the road for members of the royal family. Some notable points just before the service, though. Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, there was a bit of a mixture of boos and cheers from the crowd who were gathered outside St Paul's Cathedral as he went up the steps. Equally, Harry and Meghan, when they arrived, there were big cheers from the crowd, or at least mainly big cheers from the crowd. So that was a bit of a contrast, perhaps. But this is just day 2 of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Tomorrow we have the Derby at Epsom Downs, the horse racing. None of Her Majesty the Queen's horses are going to be racing. The last one pulled out just a couple of days ago. But perhaps this gives her an excuse to spend time with Lilibet, Harry and Meghan's youngest daughter, the Queen's great-granddaughter, who she has never met, and it's her first birthday tomorrow, so perhaps she will be spending time with her family. There's also a big concert at Buckingham Palace where I am on the Saturday night. We've heard them rehearsing a little bit earlier for that. And on Sunday, there is a magnificent pageant celebrating Her Majesty the Queen's 70 years of service, starting at Westminster Abbey, going up the Mall, across Whitehall, down the Mall towards Buckingham Palace, where Ed Sheeran will perform. And perhaps we might see Her Majesty the Queen appear on the balcony once again to round off the extended bank holiday weekend.
Fingers crossed. Thank you ever so much, Cameron. Get out of the wind. It looks a bit blustery there. Well, Pontefract in West Yorkshire is getting into the swing of Jubilee celebrations at the Town Hall. They have replicated the 3 arches built in 1911 for the coronation of King George V and Queen Mary, with 9 schools involved in the work. GB News Yorkshire and Humber reporter Anna Riley joins us from Pontefract now. And Anna, there's a 1950s themed event currently underway at the castle in honour of Her Majesty, I understand.
Good afternoon, Alex. There is indeed. The castle is packed, a historical castle, been here 500 years, with ties to the royal family. And I'm joined today by Paul Cartwright. He is the chair of Pontefract Civic Society. Paul, tell us about this event.
This event is staged by Wakefield Council, who manage the castle on behalf of the Duchy of Lancaster. And the similar event took place yesterday, plus the beacon lighting and fireworks, which was a fantastic event. This one continues through to 4 p.m. today, and then from the Civic Society's perspective, we turn everything over to the town centre to think about tomorrow and some of the exciting things that will happen there.
And what has the Jubilee done for the town of Pontefract?
I think after the pandemic, the Jubilee's brought people together. It's been a real opportunity to work together, to gather together, get out and see each other, and events that have taken place over the past few days and what will happen with our market and the additional entertainment tomorrow will be absolutely fantastic. We've got a male voice choir, we've got a magician, there's cars, there's a craft fair in the town hall, and there's a gig, 1960s gig in the town hall. Sunday's an afternoon tea, and then it's probably a little bit of time to chill in a couple of locations with garden parties or picnics in another garden. It's that kind of thing at the weekend.
And what do you think to the royal family? Members of the Civic Society have met the royal family, haven't they?
They have indeed, including myself. I've been to Buckingham Palace at one of the garden parties. I've been to St James's Palace, and the first thing that His Royal Highness Prince Charles said to me was, "I'm sure I'd met you before," which wasn't true, but it was a good start to the conversation.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Paul. There's certainly a lot happening here in Pontefract across the Bank Holiday Jubilee weekend.
Anna, thank you ever so much. Sounds like fun there. Good music in the background. Now, you may have well heard the sounds of bells ringing this morning from your local church. What a wonderful sound it is too. Thousands of ringers, or campanologists as some people know them as, have been marking the Platinum Jubilee in unison, building up to the start of the service at St Paul's Cathedral a little earlier. GB News reporter Will Hollis is at All Saints Church in Kempston in Bedfordshire. Will, are they still ringing the bells there now? Sounds like it's got a bit quiet.
It is a lot quieter here. I was listening into where Anna was reporting from, and I thought that's a much noisier place. That's where the party is still happening. Unfortunately, there aren't any bells ringing here anymore. I imagine people's arms would have gotten quite tired if they'd been going for this long, over about 4 or 5 hours. They are going to be coming back a little bit later to do a bit more of a longer peal. That's when they change 5,000 different combinations. It can go on for hours, but it's a little bit quieter now. When I was here, we were speaking to different people about their memories of ringing for different events and why they ring, and I actually stumbled upon a chap who's 90 years old, turning 91 in just a couple of weeks, and this was his Platinum Jubilee ringing. But he's also rung at all of the different Jubilees, and he even rung at the coronation. So Cliff Izzard, he's lived in Kempston all of his life, and I very luckily had a chance to speak to him earlier today.
Right, well, what I remember about it, it rained all day, I do remember that, and all the ringers arrived on bicycles. There were no cars amongst the band in those days, and not many people lived around about by the church, and Kempston's a very spread out village, and we all came on bikes. But apart from that, I don't remember. Well, the other thing is that we had a celebration party, I suppose it was, in the village square outside the school there, where there was a beer barrel set up in the school, and everybody had a jolly time.
And it's 70 years of the Platinum Jubilee. You're 90 years old, turning 91 in just a couple of weeks. I don't think the Queen is going to be putting her crown down anytime soon. Do you think you'll stop ringing anytime soon?
No, I don't think I'll stop. I don't plan to stop anyway. But you never know what's going to round the corner.
Well, when I was speaking with Cliff, I said, how far do you think you can go? How long do you think you can go for? And he was telling me that he'd love to ring if Her Majesty was able to reach the age of 100 for that event. So I think there's lots of things that we can still look forward to, even if Platinum Jubilee's 70 years on the throne seems like such a milestone. I think today people are just celebrating, this weekend people are just celebrating. And I think for people like Cliff, who've lived throughout the reign of the monarchy, lived throughout the reign of Elizabeth II, are celebrating maybe a little bit more so than some of us younger ones. But just in the same way that Cliff was saying back in 1953, he was having his jollies, he was having his drinks. I'm sure plenty of people will be enjoying a little sherry or a shandy later today.
Will, thank you ever so much. Well, my studio guest today is the historian and royal biographer Robert Lacey. I want to know what Cliff is mixing in his drinks. I mean, that's hard work. I used to ring church bells, and at the age of 90, doesn't look a day over 70.
Well,
amazing.
He's teaching us the same lesson as the Queen. I mean, you work hard and you'll live longer and look better. And such joy, wasn't it? All these reports you've gathered together.
Yeah, it's nice actually going around the country. Now, of course, we missed the Queen today at St Paul's Cathedral. We knew this was going to be, 4 days. It's a bit of a slog for her at the age of 96. But what's been the significance? People have been talking a lot about the transition period and the fact that we are getting used to seeing the Queen withdrawing from public life a bit more and putting some of the other royals more centre stage. Do you think we're ready for that?
I don't think we are, no. I mean, Mr. Rupert Murdoch always said that he didn't think Britain could survive emotionally without the Queen. She's a sort of crutch. But as the Archbishop of York said in his wonderful sermon, what's wrong with having a prop? What's wrong with being supported? I thought the humanity of the whole situation was brought across beautifully by him. And what I liked about it particularly, I mean, I can remember back to 1952, 53, the coronation. and it was brought to us through these little fuzzy television screens. There was just one in our street, and the price of entry was a dining room chair. We all trooped through the front door of the semi-detached in the suburbs of Bristol with our little chairs, and we sat and watched. And the Queen was brought to us by television. And I thought the lovely symmetry of the ceremony today was the Archbishop was cheeky enough to say, "Your Majesty, you're listening to us, we think. We believe that that's correct and that she did watch the BBC performance." Well, I thought it was rather a nice present back to her. That all the ceremony and music and talent and good feeling on display at St Paul's Cathedral could be transported back to her via television. And just in time, just when she was sitting down for her G&T, I imagine.
The gin and, isn't it, Dubonnet, as she likes?
Oh, gin and Dubonnet, you're quite right. Yes, your research is better than mine, Alex.
But, I mean, it's amazing. I was watching the ceremony earlier at St Paul's Cathedral. It did feel Disney-like, because you see all of that sort of, the ceremonial gowns, the royal fanfares, the trumpets, and it really does remind you that we are a country steeped in history and tradition.
Yes, well, and you showed there people booing Boris, some people booing, some people cheering. Well, that's actually sort of, for me, summed up our constitution. That we have these two heads of state, of figureheads. One is the elected Prime Minister, who stands for all the things we disagree about, and the Queen is there for all the things we agree about and that bring us together. And I think that's what everybody was celebrating, that her constant, you know, these words keep getting used, but why not keep using them? Constancy, duty, hard work, all of this, these are things we agree about. They're not often highlighted, but here they were today.
Yeah, the spirit of a nation. Robert, thank you. You've been very poetic so far. I'm enjoying that.
Well, I'd rather enjoy your thoughts too, as well. I mean, you know, we're looking at a national religion here.
It is. It is.
And we saw the best of it today.
We really did. Let us know your views about all of this. If you've ever met the Queen, do tell us or send us your pictures. And also give us some snaps of Jubilee festivities, dogs in outfits, bunting on houses. We want to see it all. You can email us, jubilee@gbnews.uk, or tweet us at GBNews. You're with GB News on TV and radio. Coming up, with the Jubilee celebration set to give the economy a boost of more than £6 billion, we'll be discussing the value of our royal family to Britain. It's time for a short break now and a check on the weather. Fingers crossed, eh?
Well, we're looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking, yep, that's right, showery across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales this morning. But generally brighter elsewhere. Let's take a look at those details. So by noon, much of the southwest of England will hold on to dry weather, although Cornwall and West Devon will have the best of the sunshine, with more cloud around further east. So the southeast will also be generally fine, and here there'll be some warm spells of hazy sunshine, lifting temperatures into the low 20s. We're going to go over now to Wales, and the showers will affect some parts of northern Wales, but more southern areas could end up mostly dry today, albeit with a fair amount of cloud around. The Midlands now, they will see quite a bit of cloud, and there'll be an increasing chance of 1 or 2 showers breaking out. Nonetheless, it'll be fairly warm. To the northeast now, and in parts of the northeast, England will also have a few showers, and although it will be drier and locally brighter towards the coast, there'll be a cool breeze blowing in off the North Sea. The far east and northeast of Scotland will be rather cloudy and cool, whilst southwestern areas have showers. For central and northwestern areas, though, it's looking fine with some warm sunshine. A few bright spells are likely across Northern Ireland, but there'll also be a scattering of showers, giving a rather changeable theme to the weather here. During the afternoon and early evening, showers will continue in the west. Elsewhere, it will be mainly dry with some sunshine. And that's how the weather is shaping up for the rest of the day.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
To all those pettifogging would-be Republicans who bemoan the cost of the royal family, what with drafty, crumbling castles and Prince Andrew's love of private jets, this weekend should silence the naysayers. Billions spent on booze and bunting is providing welcome retail therapy and festive relief during the cost of living crisis. More than £6 billion worth of economic boost, in fact. And if anyone questions the economic model of having a world-famous family, oh, you only have to look to America and their tawdry Kardashian imitation, as their Queen Kim has flown to London desperate for some reflected Jubilee glory from the real thing. Not only does the royal family bring incalculable soft power, they can also earn the country some hard cash too. Well, let's focus on one company feeling the benefits in Northern Ireland. They've been awarded a royal warrant, and the timing is extra special. Our Northern Ireland reporter, Doogie Beattie, went along to find out more.
Ulster Carpets is a firm that tends not to shout about its achievements. Still a family-run firm after 85 years. MD Nick Coburn attributes its success to a number of factors.
We've always invested continually, and we've always tried to be the best, and it's that continual investment in new machinery and innovation, but also in people. We've been in this area here and 85 years, and we have some of the most fantastic people working for us. So that combination of people, progression, innovation, and always wanting to be the best and keeping a step ahead now makes this is the largest Axminster carpet factory in the world. So, we feel proud that what everybody has done here has led to a really fantastic situation.
Just over a week ago, it became one of a select few in Northern Ireland with a royal warrant.
That means so much because it really reflects the really hard work that all our people do, and I think reflects the fact that we're a UK manufacturer. We're really proud, particularly at this time coming up to the Queen's Jubilee, Platinum Jubilee. Just so proud to have one of the 3 companies in Northern Ireland to have the royal warrant.
Attention to detail is never forgotten, and quality is at the very centre of this firm's reputation. Ulster Carpets is a real UK manufacturing success story. Not only is it family owned, it's the largest Axminster plant in the world. It creates jobs in its mills in Wakefield and Dewsbury because it sources its wool from inside the UK.
I think companies like ourselves have really gone up the value-added chain, where it's not a commodity. We're bringing something to people's rooms, people's casinos, people's hotel, which enhances their room. They see the value in that, and it's really working closely with, particularly an international market. 80% of our product goes outside of the UK, but all of the product is made here, not just in Portadown, which is headquarters, but We are, a cradle-to-grave operation right across the UK. So all the jobs that we employ, all the investment is in the UK, and that's unique as well. 80% of the product we make here is exported all over the world, all 5 continents. From palaces in Dubai to casinos in Las Vegas to the Ritz Hotel in London to cruise ships. Anybody walking in a top hotel, a casino, a cruise ship, most likely will be walking on an Ulster carpet made here in Portadown, and we're immensely proud of that.
Dougie Beattie, GB News, County Armagh.
Oh, great boost indeed for that company. Let's go back to the historian and royal biographer, Robert Lacey. I mean, Oscar Wilde famously said, didn't he, that the cynic knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. And when it comes to the sheer clout of the brand of the royal family, it's invaluable.
It is. And when we're talking about the price of everything, I mean, the monarchy costs us now, taxpayers, coming up to £80 million a year. That's the taxpayers. When people say it's a waste of taxpayers' money, well, it's the expenditure of precisely £80 million of taxpayers' money. Well, I reckon there's about £2 that I pay out of my taxes. There are, 40 million taxpayers? So do the sums, £2 per taxpayer. I think that's very good value for money. And as you say, it's not just a matter of our soft power. The revenues, I have this argument all the time with Republicans, and they say, oh, people would come and look at Buckingham Palace in any case. They wouldn't. The magic of having the knowledge that, of course, the Queen doesn't live there now. It was such an exciting moment yesterday, watching what was going on, and suddenly everybody started clapping. We looked around, wondered why. The royal standard had gone up because the Queen had arrived from Windsor, so we knew she was inside. Now, that's not just a magic to Brits. It's a magic to people all over the world, and that's why they come here and want to experience it.
I mean, it's astonishing, isn't it? Even that little nutter in North Korea sent his Twitter tribute to the Queen. But talking about that, I mean, the Queen herself is notoriously thrifty as well, isn't she? But I would imagine that the personal wealth of the royals wouldn't even make the Sunday Times rich list these days.
No, they don't. No, they don't. And actually, it's the so-called Crown lands are held in trust by the government, in fact, and yes, that's a very good point you make. The revenue from the Crown lands, which are huge estates and that sort of thing, now that's 400 million. Now, that money nowadays all goes straight into the Exchequer. So if you do the simple sum, 400 million from the Crown lands into the Exchequer,
80 million goes out.
80 million goes out. I think that's a pretty good bargain.
Yeah, it's incredibly. But, I mean, what makes the royals so fascinating as well is in this day and age, a lot of them have normal jobs, normal jobs that aren't big bucks jobs either. Prince William was a helicopter pilot. Was it Edward or Sophie worked in advertising? Yeah. They more and more like ordinary people. And
we saw on the balcony there, it wasn't drawn attention to, Prince Richard of Gloucester. Do you know who he is? Well, you come from Gloucester.
I do come from Gloucester.
So you should know. But anyway, he's about my age. He was at university same time as me, studying to being an architect. And then an elder brother unexpectedly died. He had to give up being an architect. He's now on the royal payroll. 2 years ago, he was the 10th most hard-working royal in Europe. There are these surveys done. Obviously, Princess Anne was right up there. Prince Charles was doing a good job too. But this man, Prince Richard of Gloucester, does 300 or so engagements every year. What does that mean? He goes to charities. He goes to encourage industries and enterprises that help make Great Britain, keep Great Britain great. And that's what the royal family do for us. And also, it's no tyranny. If the Republicans don't like them, just organise a vote in Parliament. We can abolish. It's easier to abolish the royal family than to get rid of the Prime Minister.
Yeah, and that vote wouldn't pass anyway, so good luck to them. You're with GB News on TV and DAB Radio. Coming up, the Queen's instantly recognisable wardrobe of vibrant block colours and matching hats has been an integral part of her reign, ensuring that she stands out from the crowd. Look, yellow dress there, just like I'm wearing today. I'll be analysing Her Majesty's style with an expert. Now, though, it's time for a check on the news headlines.
Good afternoon. It's 2:33. I'm Olivia Guthrie in the GB newsroom. The Archbishop of York has thanked the Queen for staying the course during a service at St Paul's Cathedral. Members of the royal family, including Prince Charles and Camilla, were joined by dignitaries to honour the Queen and her 70-year reign. Prince William and Kate were also there, along with Prince Harry and Meghan, who appeared with the Windsors for the first time since moving to America. Her Majesty missed the event, though, after experiencing some discomfort yesterday. She watched the service on television from Windsor Castle. The Archbishop said the Queen was missed.
Your Majesty, we are sorry that you're not here with us this morning, but we are so glad that you are still in the saddle, and we are glad that there is still more to come.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister received a mixed reception on his arrival. Boris Johnson was booed and cheered by the crowds as he approached St Paul's Cathedral with his wife Carrie. It follows a turbulent time for the Prime Minister, who's facing calls to quit after Sue Gray's report into lockdown breaches at Downing Street. In other news, UK intelligence shows Russia now controls more than 90% of Luhansk in eastern Ukraine. On the 100th day of the war, the Ministry of Defence is warning Moscow could have complete control of the region in the next 2 weeks. After abandoning its assault on the capital, Kyiv, Russian forces are now focusing on the east and south of the country. The government here has confirmed it wants to ditch what it's calling overbearing EU rules about imperial measurements. It's launched a consultation which may give traders more freedom to use pounds and ounces instead of kilos and grams when selling goods in future. TV, online and DAB+ radio. This is GB News. Don't go anywhere. Alex will be back in just a moment.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Gone are the days when Boudica sported a metal breastplate, when Elizabeth I caked her face in lead and vinegar, smearing her lips with mercury until she got blood poisoning. Our own Elizabeth, far from the ruffles and corsets of before, has been instantly recognisable through simple tailoring, almost utilitarian, with block colours to be instantly visible to the crowd. Carefully set hair, pristine gloves, loafers and trusty black Lorna handbags reflect the pragmatism and stability of her rule. But like her forebears, whose symbols were painted into images shown around the world, the Queen also uses outfits as diplomatic tools. Colours and motifs to echo national flags and symbols. And much like her ancestors, when state occasions require exuberance, hefty embellishments are padded with extra layers of cushioning, while handmade shoes are worn in beforehand to prevent royal blisters. Hems are held down by tiny weights, while the Queen deliberately opts for fun flourishes when meeting children. And despite so many various engagements, the wardrobe gets recycled, with each outfit having a lifespan of around 25 years. But when not in the public eye, our beloved humble Madge prefers functional attire. Her trusty Barber jacket and wellies with a scarf knotted under her chin. Well, I am delighted to be joined in the studio by royal fashion expert Michael Talboys, and royal biographer Robert Lacey is still with us. Michael, now explain to us, you have a very close connection with royal fashion.
Yes, in the early 60s, in 1961, in fact, I went to work as an assistant designer to Sir Norman Hartnell.
And that involved designing the Queen's coronation dress?
No, that was before my time.
Before your time, but from the same atelier?
Yes, but obviously I was very interested in talking to Mr. Hartnell about it, and he told me all the background of how it had been very difficult to design it for the Queen. She'd said, I don't want to look like my wedding dress, but otherwise she didn't have any particular things in mind to advise, although she did say she'd like a heart-shaped neckline, which is a bit like yours, which, of course, she had on her wedding dress. But other than that, he was given carte blanche. So he decided to look at previous queens, what they had worn with their coronations. He looked at the painting of Queen Elizabeth, one of Queen Anne, and one of Queen Victoria. None of them inspired him at all. So he set about what he should do, what sort of motifs to put on the dress, because he was known for his embroideries. And he thought perhaps the oak symbolised England, and the acorns could be raised, embroidered, very nice. So he went along with that sketch, and the Queen took one look, and she said, "But I am Queen of Great Britain, Mr. Hartnell." So all representative has to be the motifs that will reflect those places, like Scotland's thistle and Ireland's shamrock. And then, of course, when it got to Wales, he had a shock, because he found out it is a leek, a humble leek. And so he rang the Garter King of Arms and said, I don't think I can put a leek. Could I put a daffodil? And he was told off, no, Mr. Hartnell, you will put the leek. So he then set about with his embroiderers designing a new dress with all these emblems, took it along to the palace, and the Queen said, "But, Mr. Hartnell, I am Queen of the Commonwealth." All the motifs of the Commonwealth countries must be on it. So he had a hard time getting approval in the end, and did, of course, produce the most wonderful dress.
But that's very reflective, isn't it, of the Queen's personality, that she is very much about function. She doesn't seem to be the sort of person who flicks through Vogue magazine and wants the latest designer picks. She's more about duty and doing her job, and her wardrobe really represents that.
Yes, and I mean, this point of the Commonwealth is so interesting. I have never heard all these stories before. Honestly, I've studied the coronation, and you've got some inside news here that's a scoop for GBNews, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we knew that the stitchers worked away for months to get it all done.
Absolutely.
But I had never quite taken on board how much it came out of the Queen's own head and her awareness of the fact that she embodies, yes, not just the British Isles, but the whole Commonwealth of Nations. And one of the great success stories of her reign is that, you know, she inherited an empire, and she's not passing on ruins. She is passing on a member of the family of the Commonwealth, which gives us such enormous power and influence in the world.
I mean, it strikes me whenever I see pictures of the Queen throughout the years, and of course her fashion has evolved with the different decades and passing trends, but she's always been able to marry up a sense of femininity, but also a sense of authority, which must be so important as a female head of state.
Yes, I mean, she once said to Mr. Hartnell, "I don't want to look like the girl on the cover of Vogue." And I think that epitomises what she's saying, is that I am a symbol for the nation. I'm not just a fashion person. I don't wish to be portrayed as a fashion person. So she just had a dignified clothes which expressed her position.
But it's very different now for the young, especially female roles. When you look at Meghan, when you look at Kate, Kate especially is becoming more glamorous by the second.
Oh, fantastic.
Every time I look at her,
Absolutely.
she used to be very much sort of high street whistles, but she's getting into, you know, the sequins and the beautiful tailoring, isn't she?
Yes, well, I mean, on both occasions we've seen her now, I think she's looked absolutely wonderful and has stolen the show from the other royal ladies.
But without being too pushy.
Oh, no.
I mean, frankly, that's, I think, one of something, a secret Kate has learnt from the Queen. She is glamorous, but she's never upstaging anyone else in the way that perhaps Harry's wife does. You know, I mean, she manages to glow, but be supportive of the whole team.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think she is very aware of fashion, and she does portray fashion more than other royal ladies.
I loved what Alex said about block colours.
Yeah, it's true. Doesn't she deliberately wear things like block clothes to stand out? And she's got that specially designed umbrella as well, doesn't she? Which is transparent. So when it rains, she's not hidden away. And she makes sure that with certain occasions, the brim of her hat is a certain height so everyone can see
I think,
her
though,
face.
to be fair, the Queen started that idea of dressing in one colour from top to toe. And therefore, she stands out. As she said one day, if I was to wear beige, nobody would see me.
And you mentioned Elizabeth I with her incredibly extravagant ruffs and everything. Well, the block colours and the sort of things that Hartnell did are the modern version of that, standing out in the crowd. Actually, there's no lady in her mid-90s who goes around in turquoise or lime green or yellow like you. But we think it's quite normal. In fact, it is what Hartnell realised, a uniform and a brand.
Yeah, no, indeed. I mean, let's just talk as well a little bit about Princess Diana, because she, of course, really was a trendsetter with her hairstyle and everything around the world, whereas very much the royals today sort of follow fashion a little bit. She set it, didn't she?
She did. And don't forget, she was extremely tall, which today we haven't seen many members of the royal family so tall. Only just recently now they're getting much taller. But our Queen was very short, and I guess now she's probably only about 5 foot. Her spine has shrunk, rather like mine. And so you have to think of all these things when you wear your clothes, how to stand out, but not be over the top.
Yeah, fascinating discussion. Thank you, Michael, and thank you, Robert. Well, we've got some emails from you about everything we've been talking about today. Alan says, there was just the mention of the income generated by people going to see Buckingham Palace as a source of income to the UK. What about the events, such as the royal weddings and jubilees? They will generate more incomes for the hotels, trinket sellers, broadcasting rights, restaurants and various other income sources just from those events. And the 80 million they're thought to cost the taxpayer each year. There's no way the royals are a cost to the UK. They're a massive cause of investment and income. Well, we couldn't agree more. Alex says, not me, I didn't email in my own show. Met the Queen in 1971, definitely not me. When I was 12, my father was a high-ranking guards officer introduced at Windsor with my mother and sister. Lucky you. Now, renowned for poise and stoicism, the Queen's sense of humour has almost been a state secret all these years, but was evidenced most clearly by the mischievous character of her late husband. For the man she picked to be her life partner, who lovingly called her Cabbage, had a scurrilous wit that defied the very bounds of decorum the Queen herself embodies. Often, Philip would shock and delight in equal measure with his one-liners. So we've picked out a few of the best. To the Queen after her coronation, he famously quipped, "Where did you get that hat?" He also famously said, when a man opens a car door for his wife, it's either a new car or a new wife. And when speaking to none other than Malala, he remarked, children go to school because their parents don't want them in the house. In a world of wokery, where comedy faces cancellation, the Duke of Edinburgh was a bastion of political incorrectness and wicked contrariness. Well, let's talk now to the comedian Jonathan Cogan. Jonathan, I was reading through all of the Prince Philip's famous one-liners. Some of them, when you read them now, you think, oh, my gosh, if you said that today, you'd be in big trouble. But that's what made him so much fun.
I totally agree. I mean, he said a lot of irreverent things over the years. Some of them, like you say, would definitely cross the line now. I read through a few of them recently and I was a bit like, okay, maybe he won't say that on television. But then again, some of them are very funny. And he gave it to everyone. He gave it to pop musicians. He gave it to people he visited around the world. He was just a guy who, I think he just basically said what he wanted if he thought it was going to be funny. Now, some of it, probably wouldn't bear repeating these days, but I think he's just trying to be funny, and you can't blame him if it doesn't always land. That's what I say about my own comedy. So.
Well, some of it, I think, does bear repeating, however much it's going to upset people out there who love getting offended. On a speech to the World Wildlife Foundation, he said, if it has got 4 legs and it is not a chair, if it has got 2 wings and it flies but is not an aeroplane, and if it swims but is not a submarine, the Cantonese will eat it. I mean, can you imagine saying that on stage today? I mean, that would be regarded extremely offensive, wouldn't it?
I mean, I can because I'm an absolute hero, but I think most people probably get in a bit of trouble for saying that these days. I mean, did he mean it in a kind of mean-spirited, racist way? I mean, I don't think so. If he did, he shouldn't be making jokes like that. If he just kind of meant it in a sort of whimsical way, then I guess it's just a joke. It's just a joke, right? I mean, offensive jokes said all the time.
Well, let's have a joke at the expense of Scotland, shall we? Because he did, of course, famously say to a driving instructor in Scotland, how do you keep the natives off the booze long enough to get them through the test? This man, of course, was the Duke of Edinburgh. Sorry if I've offended any Scottish people out there who might enjoy a dram or two. And on meeting an Australian man who introduced himself and said, my wife is much more important than I am, he replied, yes, we have that trouble in our family too. You get the impression that he must have kept the Queen amused all the time with his little one-liners and side quips.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he really had it in for Tom Jones as well. This is one of my favourites. So he said to Tom Jones, what do you gargle with? Pebbles. And also another time, he's talking to a small business owner about how difficult it is in Britain to get rich. And then he says, what about Tom Jones? He's made $1 million and he's a bloody awful singer. So he really had a thing for Tom Jones. And I don't know where that stemmed from, but I'd like to see their historical beef play out. But, he's a staunch critic of...
Jonathan, may the spirits of the Duke of Edinburgh live on inside comedians such as you. Thank you so much for coming on the programme. Well, Robert, I miss the Duke of Edinburgh. When you read some of the lines like that, it's funny, isn't it? Because the Queen has got to have this outside image of being a stoic and not offending anybody. It's her duty and her service to the country in all of her realms to be neutral, to be almost unreadable. But you get the impression that she must have a bit of a wicked wit because she loved that man to the ends of the earth.
Yes, and those so-called gaffes, that, as they came to be called, were originally designed for her, to cheer up her at breakfast or lunch or something like that. And the Queen has quite a wicked wit. When Prince Charles's girlfriends would turn up at Windsor, she'd say, did you find it easily? And then there's the story of how in the days of the Tony Blair's Labour cabinet, and mobile phones had just come in and we weren't quite sure about how to use them. And Claire Short's, the Minister Claire Short's mobile phone went off and she switched it hurriedly and put it in her pocket looking embarrassed. And the Queen said, oh dear, I do hope it wasn't somebody important.
But that's the great thing. She has that sort of... One thing I think I've noticed, ever since we've lost Prince Philip, it seems to me the Queen smiles more readily. And not in the sense, of showing extra happiness, far from it. But it seems to me, in the sort of twilight years of her reign, she's giving us more of herself, especially since maybe that was a function that he carried out on her behalf.
Yes, I mean, it was poignant, wasn't it, at yesterday on the balcony. It wasn't Philip beside her, it was her actually beloved cousin, scarcely anybody knows, Eddie, Duke of Kent. Yes, Philip was an absolutely crucial part of the team. I think those last years of his life, she was worried. She knew how... So... life is simpler for her now. And, of course, she has her religious faith that was the focus of the service this morning. She knows she's going to meet Prince Philip in the next world. That was why the one part we didn't see of Prince Philip's funeral was when his coffin went into the ground below the chapel, because he hasn't been buried. His coffin is waiting there for the Queen when they will lie side by side. Now, that is a difficult thing to talk about, but as one of her friends said to me, she is a religious woman, and she realises the reality of her age. Her bags are packed and ready, they said. And it was so interesting, for example, earlier in the year, on her accession day, everybody expected her to talk about herself and coming to the throne. She actually talked about Camilla and the need for us all to accept Camilla. She effectively said, please accept Camilla. I accept her. I would like her to be the next queen. In other words, she was acknowledging her mortality and looking ahead. And that's the sort of modesty and duty that she's always displayed.
Robert, it's been an utter privilege having you in the studio. I could talk to you all day. Your insights are fascinating. The way you put things is just touching and beautiful. It really has been a delight having you here. Robert Lacey, thank you ever so much. That is all we've got time for today. Thank you for joining me on the show. It is, of course, the glorious Dame Arlene Foster coming up next. I will see you again on Monday. I'm off to see if I can enjoy the dregs of Jubilee sunshine. Let's see if we're going to have any better luck with the weather over the weekend. Do stay tuned. And it's bye-bye from me. Have a wonderful Jubilee weekend.
Join me, Arlene Foster, for the briefing on GB News. Every Friday at 3 p.m, I'll give you all the latest political news and analysis, and we'll have robust live debate. To make sure that you're caught up on all of the biggest issues of the day, we'll bring on experts in their field. I'll ask the questions that you'd like to ask. We're not afraid to tackle discussions from all perspectives, including yours. Don't forget, The Briefing with me, Arlene Foster, every Friday at 3 p.m. on GB News.
Join me, Darren Grimes, for Real Britain every Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m. A news hour that comes with a trigger warning. Scorching hot opinion with prominent guests saying the unsayable and a little bit of weekend fun thrown in. Unlike other broadcasters, I won't be forgetting what the B in our name stands for. So Howie in for Real Britain, Saturday and Sunday from 2 p.m.
Well, we're looking ahead to today's weather, and the UK is looking, yep, that's right, showery across Northern Ireland, southwest Scotland, northwest England and North Wales this morning. But generally brighter elsewhere. Let's take a look at those details. So by noon, much of the southwest of England will hold on to dry weather, although Cornwall and West Devon will have the best of the sunshine with more cloud around further east. So the southeast will also be generally fine, and here there'll be some warm spells of hazy sunshine lifting temperatures into the low 20s. We're going to go over now to Wales, and the showers will affect some parts of northern Wales, but more southern areas could end up mostly dry today, albeit with a fair amount of cloud around. The Midlands now, they will see quite a bit of cloud, and there'll be an increasing chance of 1 or 2 showers breaking out. Nonetheless, it'll be fairly warm. To the northeast now, and in parts of the northeast, England will also have a few showers, and although it will be drier and locally brighter towards the coast, there'll be a cool breeze blowing in off the North Sea. The far east and northeast of Scotland will be rather cloudy and cool, whilst southwestern areas have showers. For central and northwestern areas, though, it's looking fine with some warm sunshine. A few bright spells are likely across Northern Ireland, but there'll also be a scattering of showers, giving a rather changeable theme to the weather here. During the afternoon and early evening, showers will continue in the west. Elsewhere, it will be mainly dry with some sunshine. And that's how the weather is shaping up for the rest of the day.
GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio. On digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB